Rentvesting versus buying your primary residence. Residential versus commercial property. Buying new versus old properties. Apartment versus houses. Metropolitan versus regional areas. These are some of the hottest debates in the property market. Now, before I share my thoughts on these, there are a couple of key points I want you to consider. First is that if an advisor insists you should only buy this, you should never buy that, then most likely they are viewing the whole situation through the lens of their own personal experience and personal preferences as well, rather than objectively assessing your individual circumstances. Because everyone's circumstances differ for themselves as well as with time. For example, the priorities of a young couple or a single individual will naturally be different from those of a family with young children who are attending schools, perhaps. Similarly, that family's needs will change again once their children will move out and start their own lives. Additionally, the journey for someone on a lower income is likely to differ significantly than from someone who is a high income earner. Another key consideration is that every time you buy or sell a property, a significant portion of your money quickly disappears into all those transactional costs, a point which is very often overlooked by the property gurus. When purchasing, you incur costs like stamp duties, solicitor fees, and inspection expenses. Likewise, selling involves solicitor fees, real estate agent commissions, and potentially capital gains tax as well. If you sell and then you buy again, you will face these purchase costs all over again. In addition to all of this, you could also be paying lender's mortgage insurance and perhaps buyer's agent fees as well. So instead of buying one primary residence, if you are purchasing 4 or 5 investment properties, you will need to carefully calculate the net impact of eventually selling those properties to buy your primary residence. Because as mentioned, a significant amount of the money can evaporate in fees, taxes, and other transactional costs during this whole process. My friend Kevin Paulraj, a mindset coach, talks about each person's highest values. Now, by values, he doesn't really mean honesty, integrity, etc. He means what is your purpose or what truly matters the most to you. Now, your highest value might be building wealth, while someone else's highest value be to prioritize living simply in a small home but without the hassle of moving. But if you follow someone else's highest value, then instead of your own, then you might feel unsatisfied or a struggle to stick with that strategy. Now, the simple reason for that is that it does not align with what truly matters the most to you and your family. So even in your property journey, you should be very clear about what is it that matters the most to you. Ask yourself honestly, are you a property trader or a house flipper? When the property gurus claim that a particular area will surge in value over the next 2 to 3 years, consider carefully. Are you genuinely planning to hold that property only for a few years, or are you realistically able and willing to leverage the equity within that time frame to expand your property portfolio, considering your borrowing capacity as well? Now, in some cases, a person might buy and sell 10 properties over 20 years, while there could be another one who could have bought just one property, hold on to that property for same period of time, and can likely make similar or even greater profit. If you are able to buy a home where you can comfortably live for 5 to 10 years without the stress of potentially moving because of landlord decisions like selling or demolishing the property, think very carefully before being tempted by complicated or overly enticing investment strategies. One thing that I have noticed is that many property gurus often skip over the hidden costs of buying interstate or regional areas. Sure, the properties might look great on paper, but each area has its own quirks that you really need to know about. Now, some of these quirky examples are like property management fees, which can be a lot higher in some regions as compared to others. Then there is land tax and council rates, which can also vary, and sometimes they can be very expensive. I personally know that one local council even floated the idea of charging investors higher rates. Now, I know that it didn't go ahead, but things like these needs to be kept in mind. Similarly, we all know that negative gearing has been a matter of debate in almost every election. Insurance can be another tricky one too. Some areas, especially those that are prone to cyclones, have limited or very expensive insurance options. And while a property might advertise a high gross rental return, once you factor in all these costs, the net return might be far lower than what it initially seemed. So, if you are looking at investment properties in different states or regions, make sure that you do your homework on these costs as well, because that can really impact your bottom line quite quickly. Again, this is not a professional advice, just my personal opinion. But if you are in a position to afford your dream home, then getting tempted by the idea of owning 5 investment properties might not necessarily be the best idea. However, as I did mention, one size does not fit all. If buying the home that you truly want to live in isn't possible, maybe because of the location or the size, or you need 4 or 5 bedroom house in a high cost area, but you cannot afford to buy something like that, or you can only afford to buy something smaller in a regional location, then rentvesting might be a good option, or even the only practical path for you. So be very clear about what you need, what your situation is, and what are your goals and objectives. In the coming days, I will also do some interviews with individuals who chose not to go down the rentvesting path, as well as those who had no choice but to rentvest because they could not afford to buy in their preferred location. And also, while I've got you there, I wanted to let you know that the first home buyer course is focused solely on residential properties, but I am going to be adding courses on commercial property investments very soon as well. So look out for that too. In conclusion of this section, I just wanted to say that every property journey is unique. There is no one size fits all approach. The most important thing is to make informed decisions that align with your values, goals, and circumstances, because in the world of property, remember, knowledge is the power.